We made it to Friday, guys. Good morning. Good morning. TGIF. The initials I was using yesterday were WTF. But you guys hung in there and you're back. Thank God. Did I see birthday? Who's having a birthday? Whose birthday? Fluffy Peach? Hello, Lisa Martinez. I sent you an email a minute ago. Whisk doesn't feel very good. We want Whisk to feel better. Where Summer said it's perfect for this show. Let's say a happy belated birthday to Fluffy really quick. Happy birthday, belated. We don't have a belated birthday song. Sometimes if someone comes in and they say it was my birthday last week, I say, well, you snooze, you lose. You don't get the song, but you're very special, Fluffy Peach. We love you. So where are we? Where are we? Did anybody sleep last night, or do you have a million different WTF theories? Hello, Christina. Christina put cake in there for Fluffy. Yes, she did. Hello, Tiffany. Lala made it. Hello, Alice. Beth. Celeste. Hey, Deborah Wallace. I haven't seen you in a while, hun. How are you? Again, it's Friday, and this back to life routine, normal routine, really has kicked my ass. And yesterday, Bushy made it 10 times worse. This makes it better. Glenjamin has become a new YouTube member. We're going to have to get him on panel one day. I love the stuff he says. Rexy still scratching her head. Goes without saying. I had a lot of comments after the show yesterday of people saying that I'm victim shaming. Let's be clear. I've been old enough to vote for quite a while. I'm an adult, as are all of you. We have adult conversations. I'm going to start the show by saying it is by the grace of God that Dylan and Bethany are alive. We're very happy that they are alive. Right? We're very happy they're alive. We're puzzled as to how they made it out alive. We have a lot of questions, a ton of questions. One of my questions is, how did Bushy, who took advanced classes in cloud forensics and all sorts of criminal behavior, make all of these mistakes? Did he mean to? Did he mean to? I don't know. He was on the path to be a professor. He wanted to teach law enforcement how to do their jobs, how to spot criminal behavior, how to put crime scenes together. He was a future panelist on Banfield. He was a future expert. I do have one question. We've gone through probable causes on this show many, many, many times, and they're normally heavily, heavily redacted. They only really redacted. They didn't even redact it. They didn't put a name in at all. They said they've talked to the DoorDash driver. That's it. Didn't even have a name and redact it. And they redacted the name of the person that brought them home, the private party driver that brought Kaylee and Madison home. They didn't redact anything else. They could have left all of that out about Dylan. It wasn't for us to know. It was for the judge to know, hey, we have an eyewitness. A lot going on. The time sequence, I can't talk, seems a little impossible. There's obviously a lot more to that story. There's obviously a lot more to Dylan's statement, which will come out later, we know. Then we go through like what the different towns he was in. Johnson, Idaho. I think it said Louisville, Idaho. Loma, Colorado. Let's look at the path he took. If him and Papa Bushy were just trying to get back for Christmas, this would be the route they would take on the screen from Moscow to Albrightsville. Lewiston. Thank you, Wist. They mention Loma, Colorado in the probable cause. They said it was on December 13th. So 2 days before he got pulled over in Indiana. I'm just going to assume this was part of the trip. I don't think he made a trip down there, came back up, and grabbed his dad from the airport. So this is the route they took. Moscow down to Loma, just based off of what's in the probable cause, and then across the country. Why the hell? Did they just want to see the Rocky Mountains? They just wanted to get a look at Colorado? They had some extra days to burn? I don't know. It's quite a detour. That's quite a detour. So I put a poll on the community tab on the channel. If you have a second, go check that out, asking people what stuck out to them the most. What do you think is the most significant if you had to pick one thing from the probable cause? Most people said the DNA. The dad's DNA in the trash, the DNA from the sheath. Now I want to know, and I'm going to ask it many, many times, what's the real target here? Ethan, Kaylee, Madison, Xana, or the house? And also, do you think him going by the house 12 times between June and November? I'm going to go ahead and round it up to 13 because we know what happened on November 13th. 13 times. Is that stalking behavior? I mean, 12 times? I mean, you can call me a stalker because I won't leave the people at Walgreens alone until all the Christmas cookies and candy is 75% off. I guarantee I've been there 12 times between Christmas and yesterday. So 12 times, because I had a comment yesterday saying 12 times in a day is stalking, 12 times in 5 months is not stalking. I do not know the stalking rules. Somebody in here knows. Kelsey, this would have been something. Think about it. A few hours after the murders of Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Madison, he went back. Dipshit knew he had left his sheath. Did he think he was going to get back in that house, but he just didn't have the gumption to do it? He was worried. Did he think, well, no, it's daylight now. Dylan, did he go back to kill Dylan because he knew he left an eyewitness? Was he just checking out the scene to see if there was any police there? I bet he was a Googling fool. I bet every 2 seconds he was hitting refresh, refresh, refresh to see if there was any breaking news in Moscow. He wanted to see his dirty work. Kelsey said it doesn't make sense. Didn't call till almost noon. Why was he there for 9 minutes before the 911 call? Yeah. Was he looking for the drama? Looking for his sheath? What is it? What is it? I don't know. I don't know. One comment I did appreciate yesterday, because I need comments like this. I do. Because the victim shaming comments were just getting old in a hurry. Nobody's victim shaming. Well, we do have questions. We are adults and we're asking, like we're asking right now. We're asking right now, what the hell was he, what did he think he was going to do that morning? Was he observing his handiwork? Did he think he was going to go back in the house and maybe eliminate the eyewitness? Did he think he was going to sneak back in and get his sheath? What is it? He went back for a reason. Like I said, by the grace of God, they're alive. Glenjamin, I bet he thought he was off the hook when he drove by the next morning and there wasn't any activity. Very good point. Very good point. All right, I have a lot of comments to go through. No, this was very hard to pick out comments from yesterday. Had a lot of hateful comments, but that's okay. That's okay. As long as we all understand that we're adults and this is an adult conversation. Nobody here is wishing any harm to the surviving roommates. Let's go through a few comments and then we will get to the show. All right, remember, if I showcase your after show comment, send me an email, you'll find out why. Hang on, how come Jay Woody was timed out? What happened? Shani, I think you hit the wrong button. Uh-oh. Now I'm hitting the wrong button. Uh-oh. I'm all over the place. Give me a second. Jay Woody, you're not timed out. That was an accident. Accidents happen. Now I've got to get back to my screen. I just happened to see that. I'm sorry. Shani said it was an accident. Accidents happen. See, adults have accidents. Hang on one second. I gotta let my cat out. Poor Jay Woody. You'll be back in about 250 seconds, Jay Woody. No problems. All right. Chocoholic said, Brooks, I saw a lot of people bringing up his childhood and that his childhood might have played a part in this. Hey, childhood trauma, you never know. She said, if you look at the resemblance between him and Inspector Gadget, I have a feeling that he watched the cartoon regularly. There was actually a movie with Matthew Broderick where Matthew Broderick was playing Inspector Gadget. I think when they look into this, they will find something. Well, I went ahead and I looked into it a little bit and I put it together. She could be onto something. Brian does resemble Inspector Gadget a little bit. Just a little bit. It's there on the screen. Side by side. Side by side. See, I like when people think outside the box. That's what we're here to do. No victim shaming here. No victim shaming. Nope. But they do look alike. I'm leaving Matthew Broderick out of this, though. I'm leaving Matthew Broderick out of it. I do appreciate the comment. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work, Chocoholic. Daniel said, okay, so my theory is Dylan was the unconscious person due to shock. Bethany came up the next morning and found her unconscious. The police found Dylan, then searched the house and found the unalive people. That explains why she didn't call 911. Now, my question to that is, because it's a great theory, is Dylan locked her door according to the probable cause. She locked her door. So I just don't know how Bethany got in her room. Because according to the probable cause, she opened the door 3 times. She saw Brian the last time, I believe. I don't have it right in front of me, so help me out. She could identify the bushy eyebrows. Didn't say they were Brian's eyebrows. We don't know that she knew Brian or that recognized Brian. Just she described him. She shut the door, locked it, and according to the probable cause, she went to sleep. But that is a good theory. OT, who was also on panel yesterday, said, I wonder how did she see his eyebrows in the dark? I saw this comment from OT Just a few minutes after, one of the experts, and I'm not being rude about that, weighed in on News Nation saying he didn't kill her because it was dark and he didn't see her. Made sense to me until I saw OT's comment saying, how did she make out these eyebrows in the dark? If it's dark for Dylan, it's dark for Bushy. Loved that comment. Summer Breeze said, who put Murphy in the other room? Murphy was not in the room with Kaylee and Madison. Was she in her old room? The one with the sliding glass door on floor 3? And that's what woke Dylan up, because Dylan said she was awoken by Kaylee playing with the puppy. Wonder who put Murphy in the other room. The probable cause doesn't say anything about that. Probably no one knows, honestly. Daniel says, this is a different Daniel, I can't begin to imagine how the parents must be processing the idea of the what ifs. Think about all the things we're asking, all the what ifs. What if 911 was called? Could their child have been saved? Or the girl who must live the rest of her life questioning her decision to lock the door and go to sleep? That's a lot. That's really sad. Savvy Sav said even if Dylan left her phone in a different room, she probably would have had a laptop or computer in her room and could contact someone via social media. Not blaming. Oh, God, no, don't. Not blaming, but just pointing out something that came to my mind. Leaving a witness does not seem like something a person who studies criminology would do. It's just all very odd. Could it be that she honestly didn't realize what she was seeing? Strange guy in the house that says, no worries, I'm here to help. Kaylee, someone's here. Party house or not, you're going to recognize most of the people that come in because, well, you party with them. You party with them. Snazzy starting it off. Thank you, Snazzy. On the screen, thank you for the super sticker. Says, why the F didn't Dylan text or call the other 5 roommates to ask what the hell is going on? Are y'all okay? No response from LE. Exactly. I get awoken at 4 o'clock. In the morning. So forget the whole party house thing, because obviously she can't sleep through anything. The dog and Kaylee playing woke her up. She heard crying. So now I wonder, how close were they all really? Just because they all lived in one house doesn't mean they were bosom buddies. This is shared housing. These aren't 5 girls that rented a house together. It's not like Dylan, Bethany, Kaylee, Madison, and Xana all said, hey, gang, let's go find a house together. No, they all had separate leases. The only 2 that wanted to be in a house together would have been Madison and Kaylee. How well did they know each other? Did Dylan just say, I don't give a shit that Xana's crying? She went to sleep. Or tomorrow morning, I'm going to tell Kaylee, put your dog up. Don't wake me up. That could be it too. The Madness is Here said, this isn't shock. I've been in shock before, and I could not tell you anything about my experience. I remember the ER, but I couldn't give details. I couldn't give the details that she gave. The probable clause, can't talk. The probable cause clearly says she was awoken by the dog. So the party house argument is over because the dog woke her up. She would be used to the dog barking. Thank you, Rexy, for the super sticker. You're awesome. So the party house argument is over because the dog woke her up. She was concerned enough to open her door 3 times, see Brian in the dark, shut the door, lock the door, and sleep until noon. So she doesn't think it was shock. Now, it did say in the probable cause that she froze. Well, she didn't just freeze because she locked the door and went to sleep. There's going to be a lot that comes out. That cannot be the whole story. That cannot be the whole story. The probable cause is just the threshold to get an arrest. I'm surprised they didn't redact it. John Hoff, welcome to the channel, said masked man inside is less odd with Idaho winter outside. Okay, so she didn't think anything about him having a mask on inside. That is something that would have been very odd to me. The dressed all in black, I wouldn't think anything of. Some people only wear black. The main question is, why did he not that we want it to happen, why did he not kill her? I don't believe he couldn't have not seen her. Let's look at the second floor real quick before we get to it. Here's the second floor. Here's the layout. It has been said he came in the slider. So that's going to be to the corner right of your screen. Now, if I'm being told right, bedroom C is Dylan's. And I tell you what a thing. It was said on this show several weeks ago that Dylan had moved to the second floor. And live on air, we said, well, Dylan wasn't on the second floor because she certainly would have heard something. Dylan wasn't on the second floor because, well, Dylan is alive. She was on the second floor. All right, so she's in room C. Xana's in room D. Looking at the layout and the fact that he was on his way back to the slider to get out of the house, from what we're told, how did he not see her? Thank God he spared her life. I don't know. No idea. The link is pinned if anybody has any thoughts on that. Detective Juan said she saw the killer just as he was leaving the house. Yeah, question is, did he see her? Kelly said the affidavit didn't say she went to sleep. Let me go read it again, because I swear, and I know all the experts that weighed in last night said that she went to sleep. She was woke up at 4 a.m. because we want the correct information here. We want the correct information for sure. I got to go through it again for sure. All right, I've got a few things to go through while I'm playing this video. I'm going to go through the probable cause again where it said she went to sleep, because if it didn't, everybody on TV was wrong last night. Nia, I want to know if she heard DoorDash delivery guy at 4. Yeah, me too. And that was kind of, not that I've ever had to type up a probable cause before. Strange wording. We've made contact with the delivery dash driver, and that's it. That's all they say. Some people say the delivery dash driver is Brian. I don't think they're going to hold that back, considering everything else they've had to say. I don't think so. I mean, after the probable cause, what is your main question? Who do you think he murdered first? The sheath was left by Madison. So was Madison the last victim or the first? Like he meant to go back and get his sheath. Lo, I see you. Actually, put your camera down just a little bit. Por favor. Lo, can you hear me? I don't think Lo can hear me. Bob has a question. Does anybody know? Wist might know because Wist lives in Idaho. If you eyewitness a murder and you don't immediately report that. Is that breaking any laws? Bob isn't saying that he wants Dylan to get in trouble, but does anybody know? I think in this state it is. But in Oklahoma, we have something called Tulsa time. Like, people don't really understand time around here. So you would have to be very specific about what immediate means. You'd have to be very specific about what immediate is. Very specific. All right, let's look at this. I put this up earlier this morning. And like I said, in hindsight, it's a lot to see. It's a lot to see.
We had brand new information since our last newscast at 5 o'clock on what could be the key to this complex investigation.
A new interview just into the 4 News Now newsroom with Idaho State Police. And the question many of our viewers have asked, what's the story with the other 2 roommates who were home early Sunday morning?
You have not ruled out the 2 surviving female roommates.
Correct.
You have not ruled them out as suspects?
Correct. So let me clarify that. No one has been ruled included or excluded as a person of interest and or a suspect. Everyone is still being investigated.
Are they witnesses?
They are working and talking with detectives, and they have been cooperative, very cooperative with detectives.
ISP won't say who called 911 and would not confirm who found the bodies. ISP says protecting what the young women are telling police could be the key to the entire investigation. And they're hoping the roommates can fill in the timeline between when the murders happened and when someone called 911. Here's what else ISP told ABC News late this afternoon. They confirmed this is a large investigation, a large crime scene inside multiple levels of this home. ISP would not say if they think it's one killer or more than one.
Okay, so again, that was from over a month ago. I agree with Mr. Upchurch. I wouldn't hold your breath for no rumors on the internet either. Even though we have a probable cause, there's already people saying, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But like I said, that clip is from over a month ago. And in hindsight, it kind of tells you what's going on. They think at that time, they're the key to everything. They're fully cooperating. But he paused when she said, did they witness anything? And he wouldn't say anything. Aaron didn't answer that, did he? Aaron didn't answer that. Now, don't forget, Bethany slept through everything. Bethany was on floor 1. There's floor 1. Jules, help me out. Was Bethany in room A or room B? I would say it doesn't matter, but something's going to come up soon where it's a big-ass deal. Hello, Combat. So she is in basically the basement floor, is what they call it. So she's on floor 1. If you look at the house layout where it says first floor parking level, that's where Bethany was. Not only was Bethany home, and Bethany slept through this, so she didn't hear the dog, she didn't hear the loud thud or anything like that. So it is possible for someone to sleep through all this. But very, very important to me anyway. Very important to me anyway, is about week 2, 2.5, 3 weeks. Hello, Lana, I see you. Is when the police said they have 5 hours, a 5-hour gap they need filled in for where Xana and Ethan were. They said they were seen at a frat party. In the probable cause, it says Bethany filled in that time gap. Bethany was at that frat party with them. So I would say they were definitely onto something by saying they are the key to most of this. One witnessed the killer. One filled in the 5-hour time gap. Let's see what Lana thinks. Lana, what are you making of all this?
Good morning, Brooks and chat. The day after just watching this and thinking about yesterday, going over the probable cause doc and everything that was revealed to us, I'm still in shock myself. I have a hard time understanding the witness that watched him walk by and went back to sleep as well, other than, some of the advocates I work with in the missing community that are way more trained than I am have brought up potential, it's an extreme PTSD response from past trauma, survivor syndrome, where you don't hear noises in the night because you've normally been woke up and traumatized in the night type thing. So, I don't know, but it is hard for me to swallow that pill, like how you can just watch something like that, hear all that, close the door and go to sleep. However, I really don't want to victim shame as well, because I think everyone.
You're not victim shaming. You are.
Am I? Well,
no, you're not.
I want to use that. I'm not trying to throw the term around, Brooks. Don't get me wrong. I lean on a little bit, like, again, are these, you're right, like the clip just said, they're not cleared. They could be involved. So I'm trying to lean on, the people in the house potentially being victims as well, instead of them being involved or whatnot, until we get all information, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brooks.
Oh, no. I was definitely, I just don't want you to be afraid to say anything, because no one on here is saying, man, it's too bad Dylan and Bethany weren't killed. No one's saying that.
No, yeah, I know that.
We're involved because let me say this. If Dylan and Bethany, one or the other or both, were connected to this dude in any way, shape, or form, let's say they gave him a tour of the house, they let him know when the roommates got home, any little thing, even something people bring up Brian's dad. If Brian's dad knew he was involved in this, he could be in trouble.
Correct.
This is not a case where they don't want it solved. The police are probably more mad about the gag order than anybody. They did a great job. They would love to be talking about the great job they did.
They did a fantastic job. When we read that document and we see so much information that they had straight out the gate, it makes sense now that we heard them say, oh no, the roommates are cleared, or oh no, the neighbors are cleared. We heard the term cleared, clearing people, clearing suspects straight off. So now we know why, because they had DNA, they had physical evidence, they had all kinds of surveillance of suspect vehicle for days and days and days. They had cell phone pings, they had, so much to go from right out the gate that it wouldn't take 5-6 years to find a suspect in this case. They did a fantastic job.
Super job. I couldn't imagine being, let's say, Xana's dad. Okay. Because it was mentioned in the probable cause that it was her. She heard Xana crying. They heard Xana crying. As a parent, I would have such a hard time knowing my child was laying there crying for her life. Apple Pip, thank you so much. That would be so hard for me not to have some resentment aimed somewhere. And anyone that says, oh no, I wouldn't be mad at all, well, then you are destined.
Then you're not human, because and here I am leaning on, like, supporting her and treating her like a victim, right? And I still, yesterday when I heard that, went right there as well. Like, how could this person XYZ, again, having to remind myself, I'm not there, I'm not her. I don't know all the details. I don't know if she brushed this person off as, just masking. Because, it's Idaho. Everyone wears those masks. Don't get me wrong, especially right now in the snow. It's ridiculous. So there's a lot of things, but you're right. Hearing Xana cry and being her family and knowing that fact now, there's going to be more. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be more released in trial. Of course, we're going to find out exact time of death of Xana compared to the moment DM saw the suspect walk by, and we're going to know exactly how long Xana was alive before she passed. So that's going to be an even more larger pill, I guess, for the family to swallow, because if she heard her crying, then yeah, there was an opportunity there that was missed.
Big time. And because Xana's dad was the one, he gave, and I'm just using him for an example. And because it was said that in the probable cause that she heard Xana crying,
Correct.
he gave an interview to his local station in Arizona and said, Xana, she was, she beat up pretty bad. She had a lot of defensive wounds. Then you hear that she was, crying. This,
Yeah.
this wasn't crying that Brian hurt her feelings. She was alive. And, she was on TikTok at, I think, 4:12 a.m. He says, "I'm here to help." There's a loud thud. And so anyone that says, no, 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 there's no way I would question that. There's no way I would be resentful. There's no way. Well, then you're destined. You're destined for Calcutta. You are a saint.
Mm-hmm.
You are a saint. If you would not raise your eyebrow at all and think to yourself, could my child have been saved?
Exactly. Well, any of them, all of them, any kind of tragedy like this, there's always the, what could have been done differently? How could this have been prevented? Who could have helped? All of those questions would come to mind. So to hear something like that only reinforces it, that your child potentially could have survived this and still be there with you. So yeah, that's hard. And I do feel for the families hearing that, on top of the tragedy in itself, to have to live through all these little details coming out and knowing that, yeah, someone heard your child crying or whimpering or whatever the word was, and went to sleep. I'd be very angry. I would be very angry as a mother.
It would be very hard not to be angry, but your anger isn't going to change the situation.
No, and it's like,
That would be hard.
people get mad, I've dealt with a certain number of things in, the abduction case that I help with out of Idaho, and
Yvonne.
Monkey Vaughn, and there's a lot of anger there. Michael got out, you should have done this, you should have prevented that. And I remind the family and anyone else around it, the only people we really should be angry with are the ones that took the little boy. Right. And I think that's where you kind of got to remind yourself here is the only person we should really hold anger toward is the suspect that came in and took these lives, and committed this act.
Oh, you got it. We are equal opportunity people, and I am mad as hell at this
Yeah.
freak. His
Yeah.
little experiment took 4 lives.
Yes.
Why did what was his infatuation with that house? When he started going by that house, not all 5 of these girls lived there.
No, and here everyone's talking motive too, and I'm curious, Brooks, maybe you can answer this or someone in chat can, but with how much physical evidence was laid out in the probable cause document, does prosecution actually have to establish motive in something like this, or can they just go straight off hard evidentiary, fact?
I don't know how it works in Idaho. Some states say you have to establish a motive, and it helps with the jury, but sometimes the jury doesn't buy the motive. That's a problem here, because we understand someone killing a spouse. We don't agree with it, but they're like, "Oh, they did it for the life insurance." We understand these sick ass people. We don't understand their thinking, but we can accept the truth. Like Leilani Simon,
Right.
it's going to come out that she was jealous of her son. She had a resentment. It's going to be she's an abusive mother. She's an abusive mother.
Yeah.
But
So
when the motive doesn't go anywhere around rage, jealousy, money, hopped up on drugs, any of that stuff, it might be harder to sell it to a jury. You got to convince all 12.
yeah, you have to convince all 12, and even if they do move jurisdiction, it's still Idaho. Everyone's going to know about this case. I do see many in chat saying that they don't need a motive, Someone even said they heard in Idaho motives not needed. So I'm gonna have to look into that. I mean,
Cool.
even being from Idaho and knowing a lot of the processes there, that's one that I'm not sure. And I thought about yesterday and wondered.
Because some states you have to establish a motive, some you don't. I don't know about Idaho. Clumsy said, Brooks, does it seem odd to you that the search warrant for Inspector Gadget's apartment has been sealed because the imminent danger to both Ellie and community? Does that seem weird or no? That seems extremely weird. It also seems extremely weird. Yesterday, we heard the judge put a protective order to where Brian in jail cannot contact any of the family members or Dylan or Bethany. So why was that protective order not put in place when he was arrested on Friday?
Because it has to be issued by a judge in Idaho, and it has to be
okay.
and it has to be attached to I mean, they can tell them, and most definitely his attorney most likely advised him, hey, it's in your best interest that nobody contact this family. But in Idaho, like if you go get a civil restraining order, those are sealed. And then the no contact orders are attached to a criminal charge. So you have to be formally charged to have a protection order attached to that.
Okay. This, I'm always very time obsessed on these cases. Like time is a big deal. This is one that definitely blows my mind. The time almost seems impossible to me. Now, it's not like he did a cleanup. I mean, he left the bodies behind. So it's not like he hid a body in this time. 4 people. She said, so he kills Maddie and Kaylee, then comes down to finish the job all in 30 minutes. Now, we don't know what floor he went to first. We don't know. We don't know when Dylan opened the door 3 times. They don't have the times that she saw him. But it had to have seemed like back to back to back to her because he killed 4 people and was out of the house. I mean, he gave DoorDash a run for their money. That's murder dash.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was kind of astonishing to see that too, that there was a DoorDash delivery and that driver was interviewed. Yeah, exactly. Because, same thing with timelines, and when Ellie gives you information, again, my head just goes back to Michael. He disappeared within a 20-minute window, right? And we think, oh, that's not a lot of time, but it is. And then you try to look at something at this magnitude, one little boy on a street snatched within 20 minutes versus 4 adults brutally stabbed to death within 25 minutes, I think was the window. Something like that. Like,
it's an insane.
Yeah. And to think that he possibly, if she did hear Xana crying, was that from her attack? Or was the crying something else, like you're mentioning? Because would BCK, again, this is going into mind frame of the killer, but would BCK in a situation like this leave Xana alive?
Well, that's another good point. He might have made, yeah, that's a very good point. Independent thinker said, and he didn't get back home until 5:36. It doesn't take that long to drive from the house to his house.
I think he might have realized he lost his sheath already, because he came back. It said the cell phone pings, and he came back that afternoon as well to Moscow. So I think he realized he lost his knife sheath, or he was driving around getting rid of the knife, is my own speculation on that little chunk of time.
Let's go through something real quick where they talk about, because they said,
I'm good. I'm going to fill my coffee while you do that.
You're good, girlfriend. Where they say that his education is tied to this. So again, I ask, did he want to get caught? He wasn't a freshman at a junior college straight out of high school, basically brushing the studies. He was on his way to being a professor teaching other people. It makes no sense. Let's look at this real quick.
As we continue to track the latest developments out of Moscow tonight, the suspect accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students is now in the Latah County Jail. And tonight we also know that suspect had firsthand knowledge of police data tracking capabilities.
So Koberger had been studying criminology for a decade in college. And as part of his studies, we have learned he often did research on how to commit a crime.
Moscow police learned early on that suspect Brian Koberger had an above-average understanding of police investigative tactics. According to court records, Koberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. We know he received an associate's degree in psychology at Northampton Community College in Pennsylvania in 2018. He then went on to DeSales University, also in Pennsylvania, for his bachelor's degree, then his master's degree in criminal justice. It was at DeSales we learned he studied under renowned criminal psychologist Katherine Ramsland, whose books included The Mind of a Murderer and How to Catch a Killer. In May, just before he graduated, authorities confirm he posted this Reddit survey asking participants to provide information to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. He asked questions like, how did you leave the scene? How did you accomplish your goal? And how did you approach the victim? Investigators also now know Koberger applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. Documents state Koberger wrote in his essay he had interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. During his time at Washington State University, Koberger was listed as the teaching assistant for 3 undergrad classes in the Criminal Justice Department. He completed 1 semester in WSU's PhD program before he was arrested.
And this continues to be a developing story. We will bring you updates as we learn them.
In the meantime, for all of our coverage on this story, you can just text us the word Idaho.
Text the word Idaho. Everyone thinks
Idaho.
text the word Idaho. Everyone thinks you sound like Cameron Diaz. They don't say.
I know. Every time I'm on your panel, I see those comments. I just die.
I don't get compliments like that. I think it was Tuesday. Someone said, I'd really like to follow you, but I just can't stand your voice.
Yes, I saw that chat and I was like, what? Like, Brooks, I started following you because I loved your voice. And then I loved everything else after that. So.
Aw, shucks. Aw, shucks. No Chains No More said he's a madman. So if you listen to that clip,
yeah,
he was on his way to teaching law enforcement. He was on his way to possibly behavioral science FBI. He was about to be sitting side by side with Coffindaffer on News Nation.
Oh my God. Woo, don't go there. I have not.
I did it. I did it.
You went
I did it. I did it, Miss Diaz. I did it.
So yeah, I'm gonna change my handle to Lana Diaz. She's my sister. Oh my gosh, Brooks. I had something I was gonna say, and then you threw that out of left field there.
Have made these mistakes. He could. Yeah. He knew he was on his way.
And so that's where I wonder, and again, highly speculative, but everyone's saying and everyone's talking in chat and all other kinds of channels about this, the motive being just that, his education, his weird obsession with law and crime. And that right there would elevate him above probably any mass murderer or serial killer any of us have ever studied, if that's the case. Because if it is, then he did all of this intentionally thinking he could go to trial and get away. Like he wants to go through the trial portion, if that's the case. He left stuff and he's doing it on purpose in order to put his butt in that defendant chair and challenge the system, thinking he can outsmart it.
Well, and think about what was said when he was in PA. It was a very strange choice of words. He's eager to get back to Idaho to get exonerated, not to be found guilty, to prove his innocence. That was a very
prove his innocence. Yep, his public defenders in PA that he had came out with that family statement saying,
exonerated is
his innocence.
Exonerated is a different. That's a different.
Heavy.
That's a heavy word, Cameron. That's a very heavy word. Yeah.
A very heavy word. Yeah. To be exonerated is to say, there's nothing there to tie me to this, and then we hear the PC come out and we're like, wait, whoa, like there's a lot to tie you to this. A lot. Like he probably did want to investigate his own crime. I mean,
Look
how
at this.
wild would that be?
Look what Heather Licious said, guys. He probably did want to investigate his own crime. Imagine what
Heather
a
Licious.
Imagine what a loser you have to be that you can't get any freaks on the internet to come play with you and tell you about their own crimes. It doesn't even have to be a violent crime, that you have to go and do it yourself.
Yeah, that takes, I mean, I'm still convinced he's an insult. I'm still, there's, I haven't heard any ex-girlfriends come out yet and be like, oh
Don't
no, I dated this guy for years and he's the sweetest man ever. I haven't seen any of that. So I think there's going to be some deep traumas there that are going to come, through this process, that we're going to learn about his own mental state and how he got to where he is. But I guarantee he's an insult. He has been in, isolated type for a very long time, and most likely has been, stalking and plotting one of these victims.
Yeah, for real. For real. There's definitely going to be something there. I thought about this too, American Mama Bear. Have you ever seen the movie The Life of David Gale? You have to look it up. Kate Winslet's in it. I just love her. No offense
I love
to
her.
no offense to Cameron Diaz, but basically, it's people that are challenging the death penalty. Idaho's a death penalty state. And they
Correct.
basically leave a trail of loaves of bread, basically, not a trail of crumbs, that get this guy on death row. He is put to death, and then they find out later. I'm not going to ruin it for you. Well, I'm going to have to ruin it for you. He was innocent.
That's okay. That's definitely happening a lot. And that's, a lot of the reason why many states have taken the death penalty off the books. I'm one of those that, politically speaking, when it comes to the death penalty, I'm kind of on the fence because of reasons like that, right? We have put to death a lot of people. However, when you work with victims, families, they usually want the death sentence. They want the death
Victims'
penalty.
families are totally different. I know an expert
Yeah.
weighed in last night, and take it with a grain of salt because it wasn't Coffin Daffer. So anyway, it was just somebody with an expert opinion that said it's a lot more expensive to put somebody on death row, but the victims' families have the choice. And just from what Steve and Christy have been saying, and the other families have not said anything. Madison's father, her stepdad said something in New York Post, but as far as like Ethan's family and Xana's family, they've been very quiet. And let me tell you, after that probable cause came out, and I was thinking about it last night, it's the old adage, watch the quiet ones.
Mm-hmm.
Watch the quiet ones.
My dad would always say, walk quietly and carry a big stick, but yeah, and then, oh gosh, Kaylee's dad came right out and was interviewed on News Nation last night, despite, the gag order. So,
but that only applies to law enforcement and the DA.
I think it applies to the families or anyone that could be a witness talking about the details of the case in the state. It doesn't apply to like you and me or, people around it that might not directly involved, but I would imagine it would apply to the family, but I don't know for sure.
I'd have to read it again. Because they wouldn't be a witness to anything because they weren't there. Now, like I could see Dylan not being able to speak out. Bethany
definitely has probably got a gag order on her.
Hang on, Court K just sent me something. It might be something on the gag order. She usually will do that.
He struggled.
No.
Wait, one of your chat, El Gal, he struggled with Kaylee. He said so online. He offed K and threw her on top of M. Lost the sheath in the fight with K, in my opinion. El Gal, where did you see that he said that online? I'm curious to see that it was actually the
Steve said
suspect.
that. Steve said that.
I don't know. It says
I
it
gotta
just
find
says
it.
he, so I don't know who their El Gal is referring to. It says he struggled with Kaylee. He said so online. That's what I'm asking for clarification.
I don't know. The probable cause said that when the man that wrote the probable cause,
Mhm.
let's see, what's his name? Brett. Hang on.
He was one of
Brett,
the officers that got there later in the day.
yeah, Brett Payne. He said they were
There you
laying
go.
side by side. They were laying side by side. I almost wonder if Maddie wasn't the first victim in his target and then didn't realize Kaylee was in there. Then came back downstairs and was met by Ethan, that Ethan heard something. You see, it's probably
Right.
seen that Dylan shut the door. That
Right.
he met with Ethan that was wondering what the hell was going on, and then got into it with Xana, was witnessed by Dylan, and then got the hell out of Dodge. Dylan's a better person than me. No way I would have stayed in that house. Like I said yesterday, you would have been stabbing my ass because I would have been running faster than Bushy. I'd have been the hell out of there. No way.
Oh yeah, barefoot in the snow. I'd have been screaming down the street at
I wouldn't have
4:30.
grabbed my phone. I wouldn't have done anything. I mean,
At
'cause
least I hope. I hope I would have reacted in some way. I'm not Dylan, and I'm not, but again, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with her reaction for sure.
and she's gonna have to she's gonna have to tell this story to the jury. And when people say don't victim
Mhm.
shame, don't victim shame, when you get those 12 people back there, they're going to have questions. They're going to say, do we believe her or
Yes.
not?
Yes. Yes. And
Because
it's
they
gonna
have a
feel
huge,
like shaming, even though it's not. It's gonna feel like shaming because she's gonna have to sit there under that spotlight and have that decision analyzed in the courtroom.
yeah. And she's not on trial, but they're going to have a lot of
No,
questions. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't,
they
because they'll
will.
say we want to hear from someone again, and they'll bring them back out and they'll say we want to see such and such's testimony again. There, because when you're talking about a life and death decision, whether it be the death penalty or this man going to jail for the rest of his life, and all 12 of them are sitting there by themselves, and they're going through everything, and then they go, let's go through her testimony again. Something here
Yeah,
does not make sense.
you're right. They can call her up again. They do have that right to call up witnesses and ask for clarification and additional questions for sure. And I just hope that Dylan is getting therapy. I mean, I would need a lot of therapy after that if I was her. A lot. Because, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think therapy is the word.
Huh.
Because her parents asked her, what made you not call 911? Because you could have been killed yourself, daughter. You could have been killed yourself. Not to mention everybody when they feel in danger in some way. Whether you're fighting with somebody in a Facebook group or whatever it is, it's fight or flight. She did neither one. What made her not feel in fear?
I think I don't know if it says she didn't feel in fear because the statement said she froze for a second as he walked by and then closed the door, right? So it might have been a trauma response, definitely that's going to be analyzed and we'll hear what her answer is as to why. We will definitely hear one day as to why.
And I'm not a medical professional. The rumor has been since, November 15th. Today
Mhm.
is January 6th, that she did run out. Now, the probable cause says nothing about that, but we know that it's only part of the information. It's about 5%, if you can believe it or not.
It's the tip of the iceberg, yes.
The tip of the iceberg. That she actually did run out. This is a rumor. This is not confirmed. She was traumatized. She ran out and she passed out in the snow. Now, it was 23 degrees that night.
Yeah,
And
no.
would she not have hypothermia when someone found her and called 911 at noon? It's because the dog walker came by around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning that said the
Right.
front door was open. So I dismissed that a long time ago.
Yeah, 23 degrees between 4:30 a.m. and noon.
Right. And the dog walker left her laying there in the
Now, if it
grass.
was summer, if this happened in July, absolutely. 1000%. It would still be 90 degrees at midnight, in some places in Idaho. So, but no. No. She would have died or been comatose or something from from that. I just don't see that being logical to me.
Mama B said she would have had hypothermia. I don't know enough about trauma, shock, and all that stuff. Most people who've been through shock cannot relay details. So I don't know, because this is chocked full of details and it's not even everything. I don't know.
Somebody said that before I came on panel, and I know it's completely different, but I just went through a very, very, very traumatic car accident over the holidays, 2 days before Christmas, that I was lucky I walked away from. And I was in absolute shock for quite a while from it, and adrenaline. And even now I look back, and the stuff that was clear then is still the stuff that's clear now, if that makes sense. Like, I was coherent and walking and okay, and walked away from that accident only because I had my seatbelt on. And, but there was pieces that were missing right then and there, and those pieces are still missing. And that's just my experience with this one thing. So I don't know. I think that's where we have to look more into shock and talk to somebody who's a professional with that. Because I definitely remember things while I was going through the shock.
Mad Chatter went through something, said the guy grabbed me and threw me up against a car. That's two people in the same circumstance with two different reactions. You think you know how you're going to react until you're in it. So you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, you don't. Even like there was a moment in my accident, because I remember, and I don't know why, but I just knew, because I could see my hands. I was up in the air and I could see my hands above my head, and I knew, for some reason, intuition, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, I just knew I needed to pull my arms in and hug myself and keep myself tight and small and close my eyes and breathe. And that's what I did. And later the emergency room doctor told me that that's exactly what you should do in a situation like that. But I didn't know. Nobody ever trained me. It's just how I reacted. But I absolutely could have responded differently and been screaming and flailing my arms and doing all kinds of other things, in my accident. So I think we always think we're going to know what we're going to do, and we're always going to be those people that step up and help someone, or we're always going to respond in this certain way. But until you're in it, you're not in it, and you don't know.
And it was said early on and in the probable cause that they did several interviews with them. It could be that she was in shock, traumatized, or like I said, she was just like, they're not that close. She just shut her door and went back to bed, not even realizing what was really going on. That was brought up to me, and it's plausible. We'll find out, and it's probably going to blow our mind more than yesterday.
Oh, for sure.
This is the only case where the probable cause made me more confused than the stuff before. Because think about it. For the last 7 weeks, we've been saying, well, there's no way Dylan was on floor 2. We were under the impression that both Dylan and Bethany were on floor 1. And I got my ass chewed up every day when I said, there's no way you could sleep through that. And a bunch of people were saying,
oh, yes, you can.
of course you can. Let me tell you all the things I've slept through. You wouldn't know because you slept through it, idiot. You wouldn't know because you slept through it. But now we find that only one of them slept through it. But it might come out that Bethany didn't even sleep through it. Like I said,
it might. And that's again, because we've also heard this house was a college party house, lots of parties. And again, like you said, each room carried its own lease. It was shared housing. This was not 5-6 people who went and found this house together. So clearly they're roommates and knew of each other, but the extent of how close they were and how much they got involved with the details of their lives, we don't know. And she may very well have been used to hearing noises, parties, other people drinking, having sex, anything that she might have already been used to hearing.
But
and
at
make
4
her close
a.m.
door.
after a night of drinking, because drinking keeps coming up, listen, she was drunk, a lot of people say. Of course, she just went and passed out, blah, 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 blah. She woke up from Kaylee playing with the dog. It's in the probable cause.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
agree with, I can't remember who left the comment. I have to look. I apologize. That said, forget the whole party house thing, because for one, the dog woke her up. The dog that doesn't bark. Remember when I got my ass chewed up for that? That dog doesn't bark. The dog barks.
The
dog barks.
The dog barked. The dog did bark.
The
And
dog barks.
apparently the vegan suspect is not the one that put the dog outside, like everyone was saying he did to save the dog. Yeah, the
She
dog
locked the
barks.
door behind her. She locked the door behind her. What would they have had to have done? And we're not going to know, to bring out these memories, because if you're in shock, you do not remember.
No,
exactly.
I still don't remember. The stuff that I don't remember is still gone. And I'm a person that also lived through childhood abuse. And so I've had years of therapy from that. And I know there's pieces of my childhood that I will never remember and probably don't want to. And it's my system protecting me from that, So there's things that, yeah, they may never remember and may never come to, especially if she was intoxicated and in shock. Like, who knows? And to get that out, I don't know. Hypnotherapy, maybe.
I have no idea. Hang on. Lie said, "Oh my wow, people are making my head spin, assuming they know what they would do." No, I think we clearly said we don't know what we would do, and we're talking about the probable cause and trying
Yeah.
to have a discussion and fill in the gaps to what we don't know. It's just a conversation.
Yeah.
A conversation.
Yeah, I definitely, maybe you missed earlier, but I definitely did say, just so the commenter knows, like I personally, although I'm struggling to understand her reaction, I logically know there's potentially several reasons as to why she would react that way. And I'm trying really hard to not pass judgment on her and wait for, information to come, because it's not my place to pass judgment on her. She will be sitting most definitely in that courtroom and have all those questions asked, and we can all wait for that.
Yep. Let's see what Rowena has to say real quick. OT's backstage too. What's up, Rowena?
Hey, how are you? I'm sorry I don't have a voice. I just wanted to say one little thing. The terror, the being frozen, I completely get. When I was 13, in the middle of the night, somebody tried to break in my house. My headboard was on the same outside wall as our front door. There were 3 men on the porch. That was during the time where there were wall phones in the kitchen. I was home alone. I'm not going into that, but I was home alone. I laid there frozen, and it wasn't an hour that passed, I know, but I knew when they left. And I ran to the phone. We didn't have 911, and I called and I pushed operator. And had to explain, whatever. I needed the police. And I was 13. That terror, to this day, if my husband wasn't going to be home one night or traveling or whatever, I would put pots and pans underneath my windows. So that way, if somebody came in, I would hear it. I was that from the age of 13. So
you called 911 though.
No, well, I called the operator. But that's what I'm saying. I was, and as a 13-year-old child, I was absolutely. I can go right back to that. I know exactly how I felt, and I was scared to move in my bed. and then they couldn't get in. They left. I didn't know if they went around to the other door. I didn't care. I ran to the kitchen, to the other end of my house, and called the operator. And you know, so that, I mean, I still don't like to be home alone at night, you know.
Well, what
if
do
I
you
have
think
to work.
about the families? Well, the family of Kaylee saying that they thought people were cleared too fast. Who do you think they were talking about? I know we've had the discussion before, but in hindsight, it's a little different.
I think that he was talking about them. I do. I think he was talking about Dylan. If he told, we don't know if law enforcement told him that. We don't know. Steve could have found that out, that 911 wasn't, or that they slept or whatever. And they found that out yesterday when we all found that out. And another thing that got me was 50 feet from that house, a camera picked up audio through the house of Xana, and a thud. That had to be loud in that house.
That's why I think Bethany had to have been woken up. It was picked up by a camera that's not on the property.
Right.
I
right.
think Bethany was probably awoken too. And like I said, we keep talking about Dylan for obvious reasons. You know, Bethany was on floor 1. People say, oh, party house, party house, party house. The dog woke Dylan up after a night of drinking.
Right.
So how do we know Bethany didn't wake up? Remember, the probable cause isn't everything. And also Bethany, after the police, day after day after day, before they got on the white Elantra's dick, they were talking about the 5 hours they couldn't figure out where Ethan and Xana were. It's in the probable cause. Bethany said, oh, they were at the party the whole time.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah. There's a lot I don't get, but I just can't. I mean, yes, it came through as a whimper to the camera. I just can't get over that. Okay, well, if she's whimpering in the house, that wouldn't have picked up. Okay. I think I don't know. I think that anybody above the age of, I don't know, anyway, knows the cries of, hurting and having sex. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that got me, and I don't know, and I wish, and I pray that nobody, there's nuts that go after Dylan because they're pissed. We don't know. We'll find out. But just from what yesterday I heard, it would be very hard as a parent, any of their parents, their siblings, to hear that my loved one laid in their own blood for 8 hours. That's heartbreaking to me. Maybe they couldn't have been saved. Maybe they could. We don't know. But we do know that they laid there for 8 hours. And that's what, is heartbreaking.
Yeah, and we'll find, like I said earlier too, I agree with you, Rowena. We're going to find out how long they were, autopsies will come out, like whether they were alive or not. But I agree, as a parent, that's heartbreaking to me to even comprehend that.
Yeah. But I just hope people don't and I'm not being, honest to God, I'm not judging her. I don't know what I would do in that situation. I haven't been in that situation, but I have been so terrified that today I still have that fear. And it, that it is what it is. But
Well, Ollie sent me some screenshots, and I don't know who this conversation is between. I have no idea because it's all blacked out. I don't know these people. I don't know the name. I couldn't tell you who they are anyway. If I knew, I probably wouldn't know who they are. But it was a question. Didn't one of the housemates make the call? Did they think the kids were alive or just unconscious? That's what the caller stated. Well, in honesty, we don't know what the caller stated because we haven't heard the 911 call. So the reply is the call was made from Dylan's phone. But now remember, this is not verified. Okay. This is not in the probable cause. This was not in any article or anything. This is just a conversation between two people. I don't know who these people are. That's why I'm prefacing it. The call was made from Dylan's phone, but a male friend, also a fraternity brother, is the one who spoke to 911. Dylan actually fainted outside in the front yard, so he took the phone. He had not been in the house yet, so that's why the initial call stated that a person had passed out. At that time, he did not know what had happened inside the house. If this story is true, because we don't know, I don't know who these people are. It's not in the probable cause. When did she feel safe enough to leave her room and go outside? Because that's what I would do. I'd be running.
Yeah.
I'd be running.
Yeah. Yeah.
It says, and I don't know. It says, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this part. She's had some issues in the past, PTSD and stuff like that. I don't want to get too much into that, to where she could also have a response to that.
Yeah. And we just don't know. But I was shocked yesterday. In fact, we had you on the TV, and me and my husband looked at each other like, WTF? We had to pause it. I was like, do what? But he brought up a great point. I didn't realize that Brian, just in the fall, right before this, I thought it was like 2 years before, but it was like 2 months before that he had applied to be law enforcement, and it, wrote that paper and everything. And it makes me wonder if he wanted to investigate. That's what my husband said. If he wanted to investigate his own crime scene,
Oh my God, what a thought.
Yeah.
He applied to them because he wanted to investigate his own crime scene.
Yeah.
But in Pullman, he wouldn't have been investigating in Moscow. But still, wow, what a thought!
If he was specialized in that, I think they would take anybody. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't going to be like a regular officer. It was something cloud, and it was how to gather evidence. So he wouldn't be writing tickets, but yeah, he dropped that on me last night, and I was like, holy crap, I thought that was 2 years ago. I guess no, he said it was, I think it's September, I think. So yeah, right, yeah. So he said he could have been, wanting to investigate his own crime scene, be the hero, and solve the case because he knew all the answers. Who knows? He's so twisted and shit. Anyway, anyway.
Well, thank you, Rowena. You should be writing movie scripts. That's a very good thought.
No, my husband, he came up with that. But he's all night yesterday. He's like, did you hear so? And I'm like, yes, I've heard that. That's a lie. It's a rumor. Yes, I heard. I said, just pay attention to what was what was read yesterday. I said, don't pay attention to anything else. But yeah, he knows.
He wanted to be a hero. And if you listen to what he said through his attorney in Pennsylvania, he's going to be exonerated. Not found innocent, not found not guilty, not acquitted, exonerated. So when all of this is over, he's going to be owed an apology for even being suspected.
Right.
That's what we're dealing with.
Right. So, it does make you kind of raise an eyebrow like, really? So anyway, I just wanted to say that, and I'm losing my voice. I sound more like
feeling better, my friend.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna hop down and chat. Y'all have a good day. I'll be down there.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
See what OT has to say. And then actually, let me play this clip and then I'm going to bring you up, OT. Now, this is a little bit longer. We're going to go through this. And if this is a triggering conversation for you, take care of you first. Take care of you first. Please. This is not anything to get yourself upset about or anything like that. Agreed, Lana? Are you okay, Cameron?
Yeah, I'm here. I wholeheartedly agree because, following true crime in any capacity, I think we all know that mental health is of its utmost importance. Many people in chat are sharing their own stories of PTSD, and I commend you all for your vulnerability and sharing that and being here and supporting each other. So definitely check out if it's getting too much for you.
Mm-hmm. Because in all honesty, we don't want this life. We don't want this to be, we don't want to go through anything like this. So no, we don't know what we would do, but we damn sure can have a discussion about it. If that makes you feel some sort of way, that's not healthy and it's not worth it. It's really not. None of us are going to be on the jury. All right, let's look at this.
The first step in the Latah County legal process to try to convict the killer of 4 University of Idaho students now nearly 2 months ago. 28-year-old Brian Koberger was in court this morning for his arraignment after landing in Idaho from Pennsylvania yesterday evening. Morgan Romero is live in Moscow right now, where the proceedings lasted long enough for Koberger to hear the charges against him. Morgan?
Yeah, initial appearances, Brian, are usually typically very short, but we did learn a lot of new information from a probable cause affidavit that was unsealed just about an hour before that appearance this morning. It was 18 pages long. It was super detailed. It gave the most information that we've ever seen in this court case. And what it showed is that investigators have been watching Brian Koberger since very early on in the investigation, about 2 weeks after the murders on November 13th. Brian Koberger had his first court appearance in this building behind me today, the Latah County Courthouse, which also serves as the jail. We had to get here really early in the morning because his court hearing wasn't set yesterday when he arrived from Pennsylvania. It was set this morning and we didn't know. So a long line of media was in the lobby this morning. His hearing at 9:30 Pacific time. He faces 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 burglary charge. He's accused of unlawfully entering the King Road home where the crimes happened with the intent to commit murder. If he's found guilty, he could face the death penalty or life in prison. He was also issued a no contact order with the victims' families. He was also appointed a public defender, and the judge set no bail.
At this point in time, pursuant to Idaho Criminal Law 46B and Idaho Code 19-816 and 2903, I am going to leave the bail set at this case as no bail at this point in time until I have additional or further information at a later date and time.
His next hearing is January 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific. It's going to be a status hearing, and at that time, they'll set the next hearing, the preliminary hearing. As you can see in the video, he was wearing an orange jumpsuit in court. Our Alexandra Duggan was in the courtroom when he was there. I was in the overflow room since there were so many people. She says he showed little emotion as the charges were read against him from the judge. He looked tense, though. His public defender also said that he has a strong family and his family stands behind him. Along with the defendant and the prosecutors and the defendant's public defender, Kaylee Gonsalves, one of the victims, her family was in the courtroom, and their attorney gave a short statement after the hearing saying that the family is in it for the long haul. I want to go through that probable cause affidavit I mentioned earlier. We're going to lay out some of the details that we learned from that today. But I do want to note that investigators were able to connect Brian Koberger with the scene of the crime through DNA, video surveillance showing his car, and cell phone records. So here's what we know. Xana and Ethan were found on the 2nd floor, and Maddie and Kaylee were found in bed together on the 3rd floor. That's what the PCA shows. Officers noticed a tan leather knife sheath on the bed next to Maddie. A sheath is a cover for the blade of a knife. They figured out it was a K-bar knife with a Marine Corps insignia. The Idaho State Lab found a single source of male DNA on the button of that sheath, which they call the suspect profile. They then compared that DNA to trash that they took from the Koberger family home in Pennsylvania on December 27th. As you heard Brian mention, he came from Pennsylvania. That's where he was arrested, at his family home. So investigators matched the DNA of the suspect's father from that trash almost 100% to the DNA on that knife sheath. The affidavit also shows 2 surviving roommates said everyone was home by 2 a.m. and in their rooms by 4 a.m. on the morning of the murders, November 13th, except for Xana Kernodle, one of the victims, who got a DoorDash order delivered at 4 a.m. Officers say Kaylee Gonsalves' dog was there at the time of the crime. She's heard barking several times on security footage from a neighboring home. One roommate who survived says she was woken up around 4 a.m. by noise on the 3rd floor above her. She said it sounded like Kaylee playing with her dog. She heard one of her roommates say, "There's someone here." Investigators say this could have been Xana because she was likely awake and on TikTok at the time. The surviving roommate says she opened her door when she heard crying coming from Xana's room. And then she heard a man say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." The roommate says she opened her door again. She saw a person in black wearing a mask covering their mouth and nose. She described him as tall, not muscular, but with an athletic build and had bushy eyebrows. So this is the first we are hearing that the surviving roommate, one of the 2 surviving roommates, also saw the suspect in this case. The roommate says he walked past her and she stood in a frozen shock phase. He then left. Investigators believe the homicides happened between 4.
So the question again, and this question is not for Dylan. This is not about Dylan. Why? And I don't want to hear because he was just tuckered out. Did he leave an eyewitness behind? Because the whole it was dark inside, then she wouldn't have been able to describe his eyebrows. Dark for her is dark for him.
Yeah, that's something that
I have a picking contest about vision right now. Now,
right, exactly. Dark for her is dark for him. It was dark in the house, period.
because we look at this, she's in bedroom C. She steps out. He didn't take the stairs. He had to go right past her to go out the slider.
Yeah, so
you can see how she didn't see Xana. If Xana, some people say Xana wasn't in the bedroom, she was outside the bathroom. So you can see that because she would have had to have walked down and looked in because it's a weird layout.
My only inexperienced thought to this really is if he just, committed those crimes, his adrenaline is clearly going to be at an elevated level in this moment of exiting, and he's trying to, complete his mission because he's planned this. So he's got to get out that door, get away. I almost think he didn't realize she was standing. We don't know how far in the doorway. Was she like in the door frame? Was she back a few feet and holding the doorknob? Did he not see her frozen there?
Positioning would help. Yep.
Yeah, so that's my only thing because I do not see somebody coming in to get their targets and then, like you said, potentially killing Ethan and Xana because they got in the way and then leaving someone who saw them. I think
he just didn't see her. She escaped death.
She escaped death because she froze, and that's the thing. I've many victims. It's the survivor syndrome. It's the flight, fight, freeze, disassociate thing. And her freezing very well probably did save her life and make her, a witness to this to be able to help get justice for her roommates.
I'm just really surprised, and maybe this did happen. I don't know. All we know is what's in the probable cause, and the rest we're just having a what if discussion about. That's what this is. That's what this is. I'm not going to shut down the show and come back and after the trial and discuss it. We're going to discuss as we go along. So, as it said, it's a noisy house, party house. So she wouldn't have thought anything about someone she didn't recognize out there, even at 4 a.m. That's what some people say. To me, I would think that it would be the same group of people coming over quite a bit. But either way, she didn't recognize him, but has bushy eyebrows. So if all this noise is going on, because I think that's why Ethan came out of the room. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But
yeah, I think Ethan came out of the room.
They've had all these noise complaints for months. They've all been talked to by the police. You would think, or she knew about it, you would open the door and be like, what the hell is going on? Not open it, shut it, open it again. Wouldn't you at some point be curious? Thank goodness she wasn't curious, but at some point, wouldn't you think she'd be curious as to what the hell was going on out there.
Definitely, absolutely, and I think she definitely was curious. And I agree. If she would have left that room, she'd probably be a victim. So she saved herself by not. And if she was intoxicated, as some people had said earlier, then maybe she just didn't want to have to stumble up there in her drunken state and deal with her roommates and whatever they had going on. There's so many things that we will, about Dylan's mindset that, will come out later. And again, I keep on repeating this. It's not to shame her, at all. I wholeheartedly believe that her survivor syndrome is what saved her life.
Renee said if he was coming from Xana's room, she would have a good view of him with the door cracked a little bit, and he would only see her if he looked over at the door. So he's looking at the slider. He's getting the hell out of Dodge.
He's completing his mission, and his last step is to walk out that slider because he has plotted his path, and he's already probably, clearly been interrupted.
He didn't look to the right and see the door cracked and see. Well, thank God he didn't. Thank God he didn't.
Thank God he didn't. Exactly. I do. As hard of a path that Dylan's going to have going forth. And again, I hope she's in therapy. She's here because she didn't leave that room and because he didn't see her.
Thank God he didn't look over.
Yes.
At 4:25 a.m., 911 was called around noon, so several hours after the murders allegedly happened, from one of the roommates' phones inside the home. Investigators have reviewed several surveillance videos throughout this, and they say surveillance video from the area showed a white Hyundai Elantra seen near the crime scene multiple times around the time of the murders. Then on November 29th, Washington State University police learned Brian Koberger owned a white Hyundai Elantra. The physical description from his driver's license matched the one that the roommate gave. Koberger, as we've been reporting, is a PhD student in criminology at Wazoo. Investigators got search warrants for his cell phone records. His phone did not ping towers near the King Road house because investigators believe he turned it off, but it did ping on its way to Moscow and back to Pullman after the murders. His phone records also match the movements of the Hyundai Elantra as seen on surveillance video. Officers also later learned through cell phone records that Koberger had been by the King Road home at least 12 times leading up to the murders, in the months before the murders, in the late evening hours, or in the early morning hours. So Brian, again, just learning so many new details today as he made his first appearance in court.
All right. I like this reporter. Leo Girl for the win reminded me, because there's a lot to remember out of that PCA, but his footprint was at her door. Why did he go to the door and he figured, okay, I can't leave an eyewitness behind, and then left? He approached her door.
Well, it will be interesting to see, but what we don't know what angle the footprint was from walking out or facing. That was not depicted. So again, we got the tip of the iceberg. They did give us a lot. We are all, agree, and we are floored by how much they gave us and how little was redacted in this PC doc. But it is still just the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. We don't know if that footprint that was collected is angling, pointing toward his direction of walking out the door.
Well, I don't think he was walking. I don't think he was moonwalking towards her door.
But it also wasn't necessarily facing, like, going inside her door is what I'm saying, Brooks. Like, was it toward going into her room or toward going the sliding glass door is what I'm saying, the toe mm-hmm. part. Like, was it, we don't know that. I think it was on his path out. I think the footprint is just collected on his path out. I don't think it was necessarily angled or targeted to her door is what I'm saying.
I'm going to have to look at that again, because it was specific about outside her door. And if you look at the layout, again, this is a weird layout. This isn't like a down the hall thing.
No, it's a weird house. It's got a...
When he walked out, well, now that you say it, when he walked out, because see, room C is hers. So when he walked out, a bloody footprint outside her door would happen regardless, because he would have to go by her door.
He would have to go by her door, so... I don't know that it's necessarily like they caught a footprint because he stopped at her door, or if they caught the footprint because he's just walking by her door anyway to get the hell out of Dodge because he was just interrupted and killed 4 people.
There you go. Let's see what Cassie has to say. I've got Ray back here too. What you doing, Cassie? What's up?
Hi there. Hi everyone. Okay, there was a lady that came up on panel one night on another channel, and she was very intelligent, and she was very insightful on forensic psychology. Okay, she stated that his cherry on top would, aside from the killings and his psychological profile, would also be that his other victim, his alive victim, would be his professor, and it would be that his professor, it would be her writing a book of him.
But this is her opinion, right? She's not
Yes.
affiliated with the case?
No.
Okay.
But it would be, because he studied all of the serial killers and everything, and she's written about all the serial killers, right? And so he's like one-upping her, right? So his like revenge would be, okay, because she stated in an interview, like they had asked her something, and she said her ultimate goal would be to have dinner with Jack the Ripper, and her ultimate goal would be to solve a murder, and to write to solve her own murder, and to write a book about it, and that would be her ultimate goal. And so anyway, she would be writing the book, and so his revenge would be, she would be writing the book about him. And
Okay. Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you. I've heard this theory before. So that he was kind of obsessed with this professor because he went through a lot of leaps and bounds to get into her class as kind of a fantasy that she would one day write about him.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You get it.
Yeah, well, he's twisted AF. I wouldn't doubt it. Let's see what Ray has to think. Do you guys think that is a plausible theory? Because he went through a lot, and they've said several times on the news channels that his education is somehow linked to this. They're going to have to explain it to me. Ray's never been up before. Let's say hi to Ray, shall we? Hello, Ray. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, all.
You got a little bit of background noise there. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking about that footprint. They had to use that special black stuff to see the footprint. Why was there only one footprint and not several footprints?
That's a good question. And remember, you're talking about someone who studied advanced forensics and criminology. He would know about footprints.
I thought initially that the killer would have had booties on, or plastic, something to cover the shoes when they go in and out. So I was surprised to even have seen a footprint in the PC doc to begin with. So that's definitely something I've questioned as well, Ray, is why one footprint and not several.
Well, I kind of thought there's a couple scenarios. It could have been one of the friends or family that came in before police arrived, or someone could have cleaned up afterwards, because I would assume there'd be a footprints coming from the third floor to the second floor, and then back from the second floor out the sliding glass.
See, and they only mention one footprint. That doesn't mean there's not other footprints. That doesn't mean there's not an ass load of footprints. People are really hung up on the footprints.
Didn't they say what kind of shoe it was too, Brooks? I can't remember.
Vans.
It's a van.
Vans. Okay, yeah, they did say what kind of shoes.
But
So there you go.
that footprint wasn't visible by the eye. The only reason they saw it was they used that black stuff.
Yeah, they did mention the chemical they used to bring it up. Did he? He wouldn't have had time to try to clean up his
He
footprints.
wouldn't have cleaned up his footprint. Maybe, I mean, does that indicate that potentially Dylan came out and cleaned up the footprint?
Well,
I
and
mean,
potentially somebody cleaned up something, it seems like.
yeah, that's something we'll have to just definitely wait to see what comes from. But that is an interesting point.
It's called Amino Black, and okay, maybe not the first page. Every page of that PCA is about a 3-hour show. Grumpy said everyone has Vans. I'm not everyone then, because I've bought Vans for people. I've never owned a pair of Vans. I'm going to assume that Dylan has a different shoe size than Brian.
Yeah, Dylan would have definitely a different shoe size. Vans are popular. I mean, I have 2 boys. They've loved Vans their whole life and still wear them. So I know they're popular for young men.
Dustin, I see you. You can turn your camera off, hon. Let's go through this real quick. This is where they talk about where he was pinged around the area, and I'll bring Dylan up too. Hang on.
At 3:26 a.m., a white Hyundai Elantra was seen in Moscow on security cameras, and it was seen on Indian Hills Drive here. And it was followed at 3:26. So by the time it got to about 3:28, he was seen at the intersection of Steiner Road and Highway 95. We assume he went across the street, made it onto Taylor Avenue, and made it in the general area of King Road a few minutes later. That's because at around 4:04, a white Hyundai Elantra was seen multiple times kind of in this area, starting at about 3:29 till about 4:20. What they saw on some of these security cameras was this car pull up here onto King Road, then pull onto Queen Road here, and then eventually make it to this apartment complex, turn around, come back to the intersection at Queen and King, make a 3-point turn, turn back around, and find some parking somewhere in this area. Because then what happened was at 4:20, later that morning, just about 15 minutes later, a white Hyundai Elantra was seen speeding out of the area of the King Road apartment complex. Then beginning at about 5:25, a white Hyundai Elantra, or a sedan that looks just like that, was seen on 5 different security cameras coming through Pullman and also into the Washington State campus. First seen coming up Johnson Road here, then where it hits Bishop, and then onto Stadium Way and made its way into the Washington State campus. It passed Grimes. As we zoom in here and show you there's Nevada Street. It went past Grimes. It was picked up there. It was picked up at Wilson, which is right there. And then it continued all the way around. If you follow this away, it picked up on Cougar just a few minutes later. That road continues all the way around Stadium Way, up to the right, up Valley Road, and then you turn up this place here, right here. This would be the Steptoe Apartments, the home of 28-year-old Brian Koberger in this apartment complex right there. 12 days later, on November 25th, the Moscow Police Department asked area law enforcement to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra. On November 29th, Washington State University police found a 2015 Hyundai Elantra registered to a student, a 28-year-old Brian Koberger, who's a criminology student, a graduate criminology student studying at Washington State. His car was found about a half hour later on that November 29th, right here in this parking lot. His driver's license picture and the information also matched the roommate's description of the man she saw in the house the morning of the murders. That pushed Moscow police to look into Koberger's cell phone data, a number they got after pulling him over for a traffic violation in August. So that brings us to the cell phone data to kind of corroborate what they saw on traffic cameras. So that starts here at 2:42 a.m. on November 13th, the morning of the murders. That cell phone pinged in the area of the Steptoe Village Apartments where Koberger lives. At 2:47, it picks him up, leaving his apartment complex and driving south through Pullman on its way, we assume, to Highway 270, which takes you to Moscow. That's this map here. It turns off at 2:47. It doesn't ping on any more cell phone towers. Then 2 hours later, at 4:48, that cell phone pops up again on a cell phone tower just north of Genesee near Blaine in this area. And for the next few minutes or so, from 4:50 to 5:26, they tracked it, moving west toward Uniontown, then back north as it made its way back to Pullman. And then at about 5:30, that cell phone once again pings in Pullman right here on Johnson and Bishop as it made its way back into Pullman and onto the Washington State campus.
That is insane the way he put that together. A very good question in chat. I have to unmute you guys because there was a little bit of background noise. Why did they release to the public on December 7th they were looking for a white Hyundai Elantra when they already knew Brian's ass drove one? They already had the Pennsylvania tag. They already knew that he had a new tag on it. Was it to make him quiver? They were already on to the Elantra. The campus security, I believe, at WSU had already given them what they really needed. Why did they go to the public December 7th? It couldn't have been for our benefit. Were they wanting him to get scared? I don't know. Welcome, Dustin. Glad to have you up.
Thank you, Brooks. So I just got a question. So you know my theory I put in the comments yesterday, and for the people that don't know, I said that I think Dylan could have, went in her room and was in shock and, passed out and went unconscious, and she could have been the unconscious roommate. But if not, then if she seen him and just went in the room and was so comfortable to just go to sleep after seeing a man in her house masked up, how was she able to just go to sleep? Because I'm a man, and if I come out my door and see a masked man, I'm not going to be able to just go in my room and lay down and go to sleep till the next day at noon. I'm going to be very scared.
I think everybody would be really scared. We've been hearing that she had some past issues with PTSD, and that after she froze, shut the door, locked the door or whatever, somehow she wound up passed out in the yard. Now, I don't know how the dog walker didn't see her, because the dog walker saw the door open. I don't see how Brian himself didn't see her, because he was back at the house.
Right.
How did he not see her? But I don't know who called who.
Right. And another thing, I know I've been seeing a lot of reports saying her and her boyfriend are involved in drugs. So maybe drugs could have, I'm not victim shaming, but drugs could have put her to sleep. But I just think as a criminal, you're not gonna kill 4 people and leave a witness, because he took a lot of steps to not be caught. I know a lot of people think he wanted to be caught so people would write about him and everything, and that could be one thing, but I just don't think he's going to leave one witness to identify him if he would have seen him. But I just don't see how he couldn't have seen her.
I don't see how he couldn't have seen her either, because he had to walk by her door to get out. But then she wouldn't have had her door cracked at the same time. She said she froze in fear. I can't put together. She froze in fear and then shut and locked the door, because he would have. Did he not hear a door opening and shutting 3 times?
Exactly.
Obviously, had a lot going on.
Exactly. And that's confusing. And another thing that's confusing, and you may have brought it up, but do you think he was in the house when the DoorDash came, or did he come afterwards? Because that time frame that he committed those crimes in, that's very fast to do, 4 people that fast.
I know. Instead of DoorDash, it's Murder Dash. How the hell in that short a time could he do this?
Yeah, I don't know. Do y'all throw out the theory that anybody else was with him or involved? Do you throw that out?
It's been bounced around since we started doing the show. People are like, 2 people had to have done this, but they've always said it's 1 weapon, 1 person. I don't know.
I still think it is just 1 weapon, 1 person until we hear otherwise. That's all law enforcement's given us, and he could do it quickly if people were sleeping, or had laid down or were in their bed. The ones that he was leaving, if Brooks and everyone else's theories are correct, that, Ethan and Xana interrupted him, then I would imagine those ones would have brought more of a struggle than the first two. But that doesn't mean with a knife like that, and that he still couldn't overpower them quickly and be out the door.
It seems to me that Xana gave him a run for his money. She got the best of him.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too. And I've also heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but another theory but he was a trained fighter, so I don't know about this theory that much. But I heard that the knife could have broke off in one of them, or broke at during the crimes, and that could have been why he didn't harm Dylan, because he didn't have a weapon anymore. But if it would have broke off, the police may have found it.
They wouldn't be looking for the weapon.
That's true. So
and he could still,
that.
I think that Dylan's a taller woman. However, coming from 4 stabbings, trying to exit and seeing another person, he could still have killed Dylan with his bare hands. He didn't need to have that knife in order to take her out on his way out if he wanted to.
That's true, because he was a trained fighter in jiu-jitsu or something like that. So I agree with that. But as you said,
unliving people are totally different. That adrenaline, sometimes my adrenaline will pump so bad that I get locked up. I can't even move.
And we don't know the order of the murders. I'm really surprised with everything else they put in the probable cause. They didn't put that in there yet. Anyone that says, they can't figure it out. Yeah, they can. The ME knows that he understands temperature and blood coagulation. They know who was killed first. That's going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think Maddie was a target myself. I think he was intending to do an essay, and Kaylee came in, and then everything went downhill from there.
That's a new one, Maddie.
Is laying next to her. She didn't come in there and lay down with her. She would have ran.
Yeah, but the girl said she was playing with the dog. He could have been in the room with Maddie at that time. And Kaylee had said, or somebody said, there's someone in the house. So she went to check on Maddie, and bam,
get
over with.
I personally feel that sexual assault was the motive. I do believe he's an incel, and that's what we're going to find out. And that he might have had, some sort of deviant sexual motivation behind the scene. I listened to a forensic psychologist kind of go over this a couple of weeks ago on YouTube, and what he said from, his experience is that just because the sexual assault didn't happen or wasn't the intention doesn't mean that, the incel didn't leave the crime and have some sort of sexual satisfaction from having completed the murder. So I don't personally believe that he was trying to go sexually assault anyone and was interrupted. I think that what happened is what he intended to do, was to go stab his victim to death, and that the other ones interrupted. But I don't personally believe he was going there to rape them.
Statistics say a knife is the #1 weapon used during an essay.
Yeah, and another thing, I've compared just, small bits and pieces of his voice from the court hearing to the hearing, the infamous hearing that was the recording that came out that everybody was saying was Brian. It does kind of sound like his voice, and he said that they was not in bed sleep together, that she came through there and then tried to run, that one of the roommates came in there, and then he caught her and threw her on the bed, and that's how they ended up in bed together. The voices do kind of sound alike.
They do.
I don't.
Yeah.
So if that was him, then they wasn't in the bed together,
Again, tip of the iceberg on the document. I think there's so much more information yet to be seen.
It's a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of redacted stuff that we don't know what that says.
The only thing I saw redacted was the name of the person that brought Madison and Kaylee home.
And the phone number, and the part of the phone number. That was it.
Yeah, I was going to say, for a probable cause affidavit, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't redacted. I expected it to be more stuff redacted.
Same. I thought we'd see black bars all over that thing.
Yes, I did too. They released a lot. So
I
that means
still
they
think they're
have a lot.
holding their best evidence. They only put out enough that they could get the warrant to be able to arrest him.
And that's for the judge. We don't arrest anybody. They didn't need our permission.
Correct.
As far as making it public for the public, that's just to let everyone know there was a safety concern. We took care of it. One of our citizens is being held in jail, and this is why. They didn't need all of that to convince us. I'm really surprised they did not redact all of that stuff with Xana.
I agree with you.
Surprised.
Agree, me too. All the stuff with Xana and everything with Dylan, I would have suspected would have been redacted.
And if
So
a probable cause is your weakest evidence, it's just enough to put silver bracelets on somebody. Imagine what the other 95%, what we're going to see.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. If they let us know all that information, they have a ton more information when it comes to trial and things like that.
See, the only thing I saw I redacted, the DoorDash driver didn't even look redacted. They just said they've made contact with that person. That's it. That's all. And then the name of the driver. Now, they took out Brian's phone number as if he's going to be answering in jail, but thank you for covering Brian's privacy.
Right.
And take all that other out.
Yeah, and I think with this preliminary hearing, I think we're going to find out a lot, because I do think his lawyer is going to try to, get some form of where they're going with this during trial. So, the preliminary hearing is the first place you can find out, like, how are they going to attack my client? And I do think she's going to fight it in preliminary. So we'll find out a lot during that.
Well, no pun intended, but she's going to be bringing a knife to a gunfight because this is their weakest evidence. So when they show up to the prelim or the evidence or any of the others, they got more and more and more stuff.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I mean, the only real DNA evidence they had was just a little bit trace on a button.
Well, that's just what they said in the
That's what they're telling us.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You hope they have actual more evidence other than that.
I think that's going to be enough. It was a solid profile that they were able to build and match, they said. So I think that's enough to place someone there. And I do, if there's a footprint and that, I think we're going to find there's more DNA.
There's going to be way more. And, since she is qualified to try death penalty cases, we already know this is where that's going. We can take a big guess, right? Really, at this point, the only thing she can do is keep him off death row.
Yes.
That's just my opinion from my vantage point.
Yes.
I agree with that opinion.
Unless there's been a mistake along the way, because she's tried some high profile, I've looked into her a little bit, cases, and she got somebody, I have to go find that link for you, but she got somebody off of a high profile murder on a technicality.
Jeez, I'm not gonna lie, because normally you hear public defender and you're like, oh great,
But that guy was retried and was found guilty.
No, I know, but I'm saying she's got the experience. I'm adding this to the stack of the deck, that she's got the experience to look for these things. And if somebody, I'm not a fan of Nancy Grace, but even she said like that Brian Koberger knows enough that when he's being transported, every single person that is around this person needs to dot their I's and cross their T's, because he knows what to look for. And if there's even the slightest little slip up, it can mean no justice for these victims. That's what I'm saying. Everyone needs to watch what they're doing, and she is good, and she will look for those things to do what she can for her client. She's not straight out of college.
No, she's got like 25 years experience.
Well, I'm worried about the fact that, in Idaho, they do have that law where if you know who your suspect is, then you're supposed to let their defense team see the crime scene before you start cleaning it up. They announced they had a suspect, but he wasn't in custody. But they went ahead and started cleaning the crime scene before she could see it. So
they
can she get
the day before they were going to start cleaning it? That's some strategy right there. They announced the day before.
Yeah, but you got to think of this. The police themselves took out stuff and gave it to people that lived in the house
with no gloves on.
Possible evidence.
with no
The police
gloves
did
on.
it themselves.
And that's a good point, because she's going to tear that up, because their personal belongings, the chief himself was driving the damn U-Haul van. She's going to tear that up.
She is going to absolutely tear that up. That's what I'm saying about the little nooks and crannies of the law and the rights that, you know, any of us would have as a defendant, you know, being accused of a crime like this.
Yeah, that's worrying me too, because they should have, if they knew they had a suspect and they know they got that law, they should have let his lawyer look at the crime scene before they done that. Because now she can go with the fact of, oh, y'all planted this evidence, or y'all did this. I didn't get a chance to look at the scene beforehand, or you let the family take stuff out before we could look at it. And she's gonna do little stuff like that.
But
I think they were messing
I
with
think
him.
it's been documented though too. We've got to trust that that entire house was very well documented and photographed, and that evidence is going to be turned over to her team, you know, for review. And they did get in there. You know, her team was there. Many people, including, you know, Coffin Dapper, were out there saying like, oh, it shows that there's a private attorney that's been hired, when no, it was one of the top rated public defenders in Idaho, and her team
In Idaho,
hitting the scene to, you know, get to work for her clients. So we will see what was documented and what wasn't, and what they'll say, but she will look for those errors.
And as I said before, if Dylan was impaired in any way, she's not going to be a credible witness.
yeah, that's exactly true.
I said that too. If she had drugs in her system, and here's the thing about drug tests. So she could have done drugs 2 days before the events happened, and her drug test could still come back positive because certain drugs linger for longer than others. And if that's the case, even if she didn't do drugs that night, they're going to say she was impaired that night.
About street drugs in Idaho as well, because Idaho is still illegal for cannabis. So if the only drug she has in her system is marijuana, they're still going to vilify her, because it's, quote, air quotes, illegal in Idaho, when you can go right across the border and get it in Washington, as everyone does there. So, you know, the drugs could be that. It also could be, like people mentioned in chat, if she is someone who has a past of trauma and PTSD, she might have medications that she's on, or something she takes for sleep. So she may have been struggling to sleep through the noises, clearly opening her doors 3 times, like Brooke said, and then took her meds on top of her alcohol, on top of potentially, you know, loading a bowl. Who knows? We'll see. She might have been that. Those might be the concoction that she took.
And let me ask you this: if you were on the jury, we're having pretend time here, and they said that she had something in her system, and she's the eyewitness, she picked out his eyebrows, would you take that as something to put him away for life or death?
Absolutely not. That cannot be the only thing.
How can you see eyebrows in the dark?
Cannot be the only thing.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's why I love this panel. I love this chat, because people can have conversations and not go, how dare you?
Yeah, I like this too, that you let people come on and have discussions, because it's not like just one person's way of thinking. You're opening up to you know, diversity, and I really like that, and that makes your channel stand out a whole lot from other people's. And then, you know, so that's great. And then you can put all the inquiring minds together, and you know, you get stronger opinions and theories and things like that.
Yeah, and I want to
hear everybody's.
Sorry, Brooke. Some were saying speculation that she's on meds. Absolutely. I was only speculating that because people have brought up and sent Brooks screenshots saying that Dylan has a past of PTSD. I am someone that's diagnosed with CPTSD. So I know a lot of people that, you know, there could be a potential that she's on meds. It could be a reason why she slept through certain things or didn't do certain things. And I was only saying that because, yeah, marijuana is legal in Idaho, and I guarantee majority of those college kids, I use marijuana to to help with my PTSD and anxiety as well. I live in a state now where it's legal, but Idaho it's not.
Then they'd be crazy to ask her if she was doing any sort of recreational drugs. It's going to be, this is what I take. The defense will ask, do you take anything for sleep? Do you take anything for this? Do you take anything for that?
Yes, they will ask her, and that will come out. So
Yeah, and a lot of the anxiety meds that they prescribe you will put you to sleep and put you in that dazed state. So, you know, it's very well true that she was dazed or out of it.
yes, if it's true that she's someone with a past of PTSD, we don't know. And I mean, how old is Dylan? 20, 21? I mean, she's still a kid, young adult. I mean, I've got, my boys are 21 and 24, and it's still that phase of trying to figure out who the TF they are and where they're going in life. And, they're not full grown adults yet. They're still learning.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think our generation didn't get that leniency. We were flat out, you're an adult now. There wasn't any, I mean, I hear about, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 years old, and they're like, yeah, but you're thinking like an adult. And I'm like, but they're an adult.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
They don't live at home. You see?
Right.
Nobody's laying their clothes out for them or chopping up their meat for them at night. Nobody's making their macaroni and cheese.
Right.
They're an adult.
They're self, whatever the word is I'm looking for, independent, getting on there. I'm just saying, I know that at 20 years old, I wasn't making all the best decisions for myself in my life. And I was an adult.
Here's Cowboy right here. He was like, I was fighting wars at 21.
20 years old, I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I was in the military. I was in the military at 18.
Wow, 21. Yeah, see, 21, I had my first baby, but I did have a few years. But it also, too, I think, just speaking for myself only here, went to my own background, which isn't what we are talking about on panel, and my own traumas, that I did not make such wise decisions as a young adult in the world. So that's all I was speaking to with that.
And here's another thing that I wanted to bring up. I've questioned this, since the beginning, or when I found this out. Do you think that this was okay? So if Kaylee was the target, like everybody's been thinking, do you think he knew, like, I have to do it this day because she's moving? Like, that was her last weekend or last day there. So it was like, I have to do this now, or she's going to be way in Texas. I may not get the opportunity again. Do you think that was like a precise time frame that he was like, it has to happen now? Because he was there 12 other times. What stopped him the 12 other times from doing it that time? He finally got the courage, like, I have to do it.
He started looking at the house in June when Kaylee didn't live there. I don't think Kaylee was the target. Are we still?
I believe Maddie.
I never bought that Kaylee was the target anyway. Are we still thinking Kaylee's a target?
I think Maddie was the target. Kaylee was gone for a week and a half. She wasn't even supposed to be there that weekend. How did he know her schedule?
Yeah, or Ethan and Kaylee weren't even supposed to be there. So who is it?
Yeah,
Maddie?
I don't even know. I don't know how he would know Kaylee was leaving anyway. I think anything's possible. We don't know what he could have found out.
On social media.
But I feel Madison definitely. I'm leaning Madison was his target.
I've always thought that.
Yeah, because we have always heard Kaylee was the target only from her group. Like, her dad says she was the target. Nobody else came out and said she was the target. He was the one saying that. So, I mean, yeah, I'm in agreement with you all. It kind of seems more likely for there to be a different target.
Okay, and this is really important. Fine Art on Fire corrected me, and he's exactly right. They never said he started stalking her in June. So I'm going to go back to when we originally heard. He moved there in August. They got a warrant to go through his cell phone from June to the murders, because that's when he got the account. It just says he had come by there 12 times prior. It didn't say that he was there in June or July. It didn't give any dates. So we don't know when these 12 times were. We just know he got the account with AT&T in June. They got the warrant from when he got the account to the murders, and they know that he had been by the house 12 times prior, but we don't know when. So it doesn't really matter who lived there in June, July, August, September. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, that makes sense too. And also,
what we were originally told when Brian was introduced this time last week was that he moved to Washington in August. That makes much more sense. So you can write off June and July. So when did he really? That's why I said at the beginning of the show, I said, do you consider it stalking June to November that he went by that house 12 times? Weird. Yes. So when did he get when did he get infatuated with that house and possibly someone in it?
When did he get his pulled over for the no seatbelt? Because that's one of the 12 times.
August.
That was August. And I have another thing that I saw from a TikToker that was in Moscow, and then it goes straight in with the cops was saying they was called for noise complaints, but clearly on the report you could see one time it said noise observance, like they observed it, and then a TikToker said that she had trouble with one Moscow police officer in particular, that every time she had a noise complaint, and she said she lived by herself, correct me if I'm wrong, but she said that she was always playing music through her headphones and it wasn't loud. But she said the same cop would always show up and he started getting rather aggressive and wouldn't let her close her door and things like that. Do you think the police could, I mean, I'm not saying that they're the reason this happened, but I mean, don't y'all think that's kind of funky that it was a house full of girls and they was always saying noise complaint, and then this girl comes out and says she had the same problem with that police department? Did y'all see that?
I think the police have to respond when someone calls and says they have a noise complaint, and I'm sure they get tired of going to the same places saying turn your shit down. I already told you, or I'm going to write you a ticket.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody always says they didn't do anything when the popo shows up.
Right. I mean, I just was off that one time. I know it said like noise observance, like they was trying to prove the point, like they wasn't called that time. They just kind of like drove by and seen it. And then that girl's TikTok came out and I was like, okay, that's kind of strange. But I do agree with you that if you keep getting called to the same house, like eventually you're going to get tired of it.
Their patience runs thin. And here we go. I'm just going to throw this in here. It's speculation only. Wouldn't it be the shits if all of those noise complaints were called in by Brian?
The shits.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be crazy. No Chains No More, those were proven not to be his. He didn't have any social media accounts. Those were all fake accounts that were started after the murders that were following Xana. So I don't think that's true.
One of them I couldn't believe, because people were sending it to me and they were like, look right here, he's following Madison and Kaylee. And I said, well, send me the link. And I went to the link. The account was started on Friday when he was in jail.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of that. But I think before like that was found out, there was a couple of national outlets and former FBI people that were commenting on how he was following and stalking the victims through social media. So,
Well, Steve said that there was a connection and he just wouldn't say what it was.
Well, why keep it a secret now? What is it now?
Right. He was saying that he wanted to say everything.
Gag order.
Interviews every 4 to 8 hours. Why won't he tell us this?
Well,
gag order.
It's not on him. The gag order is not on him.
No.
Right. It never has been. That's what he say. I
But
can
it
speak
could be on the evidence that they found in the phone. Because they jailbroke the phone day one.
What are you talking about? Jailbroke what phone? Who jailbroke what phone?
Kaylee's phone. Kaylee's sister jailbroke Kaylee's phone day one.
I don't know.
Well,
They
somebody
said
tried to.
that during the interview.
Well, this could be speculation, but one of the connections that somebody made, they went on the internet and they said that there was two men that was in a relationship. One had the last name Kohlberger and one had the last name Goncalves or Gon.
See, but that's just a bunch of internet rumors.
Well, if it's on the internet,
that's just a bunch of crazy internet rumors.
I'm not saying rumor. I'm saying on their television interview, they said they jailbroke the phone.
Well,
Yeah,
that's how they found out that she was texting.
They didn't need to jailbreak anything. Steve pays the bill. They didn't have the phone. They did not let them take anything out of that house until a few weeks ago when they went there. Steve pays the bill. They could easily get into her phone, into the phone records, and see who she was calling, who called her. That's where all that came from. They didn't let them take anything out. Where was that at that they said that they had that phone in their possession?
They didn't say, she didn't say that she had the phone in her possession, but the sister said that she jailbroke the phone.
Well, she could have been
on camera, on TV.
She could have logged into the Apple ID through the computer or a MacBook or anything like that. Guessing it was an iPhone, you know, or you can go to AT&T.com or Verizon or whatever your respective service is, and you can get on there and see people's text messages and call logs and things like that.
I've got my adult children on mine, and I can go in and see. So I don't think there's any jailbreaking that took place, because like Brooke said, they wouldn't have had the physical phone to jailbreak for weeks, if that. But they could log in through the cloud, you know, or their account if she was still on it and see.
No, they found information on her phone. That didn't mean they
That's all it was.
had the phone. And either way, it's not a big deal.
That's all it was.
I mean, we saw the probable cause. They didn't even mention all of these phone calls to Jack in the probable cause, so they must not be that big a deal. We all know about them.
Right. Agreed. Anyway, I gotta hop down, Brooks. I gotta get going to work. So thank you everyone on panel. This was a great discussion this morning. And happy Friday, and hope you all have a great weekend.
Happy Friday.
Thank you, Lana. All right, guys, I hate to leave good company, but speaking of adults, I have some adulting I have to tend to. So I want to say thank you, Dustin, for coming up. Thank you, Ray, for coming up. It was really fun having you guys up on panel. OT, you were backstage, and I don't know if you lost connection or what, so I'll get you next time. We had Rowena. That was always a big treat. Who else came up? Cassie, and then I lost Cassie, and I had a question for Cassie, but there's always next time, right?
Yes, thank you for having me, Brooke.
Hey, anytime. Don't be shy. Grab that link, okay?
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for being here for another great show and for having an adult conversation and not clutching pearls saying, how dare you? I can't believe this, because we're having a conversation. And you guys are the coolest people to have it with. You guys are super cool. So I hope you have a superb weekend. I hope everyone has their reminders set to all, because if need be, we will pop in together like we had to do yesterday and have another one of our great discussions. So have a great weekend. Thank you, mods. I know it was a little crazy and I don't know how you do it. You guys are the best. And I will see you back here. If I don't see you in Discord or one of the Facebook groups, then I'll see you back here Monday morning. Thank you so much.